So, keeping it very real today with my grandma's decor in the background, with the heater. The reason I'm doing so is because we're talking all about being of influence, influencer life, what this actually means, why I believe personally we're shifting the way that we think about this, and why I personally believe that you should reconsider what it is you think to be influential in your life. If you don't already know, my name is Maria. This is Home Mati, a platform dedicated to all things true, a platform dedicated to uncovering your own inner wisdom, because I believe that is so fundamentally important, and I think we should be leaning more into that instead of relying on external influences. So, let me start by first telling you a story of my own journey with putting my voice out there, and I guess of trying to get amongst the influencer life, like OG style. The year is 2009. There are many fashion blogs that are up and coming and are popular, like the Blonde Salad, which you wouldn't maybe not know of, but it was Chiara Ferragini's original blog. I was obsessed with it. It was this time where all these fashion bloggers were coming out. It was like, instead of you watching their reels or their videos every day, because TikTok wasn't a thing back then, either was Instagram, you would just be refreshing their blog just so you could see fresh content, fresh photos. What are they wearing? What should I be wearing? I don't know, it was very cool, to be honest. Like, it felt like this time whereby you looked forward to content and it wasn't something that you felt was constantly getting, pushed in your face. It was just kind of a more curated experience, I want to say. So at that time, I had my own blog, and genuinely, and I mean this honestly, it was purely a space for me to share my musings, my reflections on everything. I talked about my eating disorder. I talked about just feeling a bit lost in life. I talked about love a little bit. Whatever it was that was circulating my brain at that point in time, I put into blog posts. It was cathartic, but it was also just a space to help other people who were maybe thinking the same things feel seen. In my mind, while I used it as a point of reflection, I was never trying to be an influencer. I did, however, in the back of my mind, hope that it could potentially lead to something. It could potentially lead to more people seeing my, or reading my words on a bigger scale. The thing is though, and what continued to happen is that I didn't know how to put myself out there. I would only share my blog to my friends. I wouldn't really post consistently. I just hoped that someone would see a blog post randomly by chance and then pluck me out of the blogging world obscurity and be like, you are what has been missing. Like, let's make you like the next influencer in your own right. Secretly, subconsciously, I think that's what I was hoping for. So I had that blog for many years. I think I had it from 2009 right up until 2015 or 2016. And then I started another blog, which was more focused on girlhood, womanhood, and just sharing the reflections that came alongside all of that. Again, a similar thing happened. People would read what I'd written, mainly friends and family, and they would resonate with it, but I could never seem to make it any bigger than what it was, purely because I guess I had this self-doubt around it, and I had a huge limiting belief around what it was that I had to say and feeling confident in it. So that was that. And all throughout that time, it was just so interesting because I would sort of just be in the background of this world, but then see people who had started blogs much later than me put like everything into it and then grow bigger and bigger and get more popular and popular. And I guess sometimes, I can't lie, I would see that, and I would see people starting businesses from blogs they'd started and all these, you know, amazing things. And I'm just like, why can't the same thing happen to me? What have I missed from this equation? And I guess that in and of itself made me want to stop blogging, made me want to stop writing. It just felt so exhausting to feel like I had something to contribute, but that I didn't seem to have an audience for it. So I stopped. And I guess a few years went past and I would just be writing in my spare time, but not really putting it out there into the world, as seems to be the theme with me. And then Instagram got bigger, TikTok came into the world in 2020, and I slowly started putting myself out there in the world once again. It's honestly, I want to say, not even been since the last 6 months that I have fundamentally changed the way that I am approaching content and the way that I'm approaching looking at how I want to put myself out into the world online. I want to touch on why I feel like this is important a little bit later on in the video, but I want to speak to you first what I feel has changed for me internally. So I guess the thing with content, right, is you make it because you like it, I hope, but there is also something in the back of your mind that you want it to resonate with other people. So there's all these contributing factors that go into just a simple piece of content, and there's so much pressure within that. And for me, I've only ever wanted to make content that felt true and authentic to me, and that genuinely helped people in some kind of way from the very beginning, from 2009. And so this year especially, I think I've really tried to get to the bottom of what my message is and how I can feel more confident in putting it out there. The funny thing is, and I have seen so many videos on, you know, how to grow your following and how to reach 10K and like hashtag teamwork and all this stuff around becoming more of an influencer and monetizing your content and all this kind of a thing. It just doesn't interest me, and I mean that. I truly, truly mean that. None of that ever has interested me. My thing, and why I feel like I'm actually getting consistent in my posting now at this point in my life, is because I'm more comfortable in knowing what it is that I bring to the table. I do not mean that in an arrogant way. I do not mean that what I have to say is better inherently more than anyone else. I just believe that in my journey of owning my truth and getting more confident in how I am, it's just crystallized my purpose and what it is that I believe that I have to offer. So for me now, posting consistently isn't about gaining a huge following. It's about building a very authentic community and having people see my content, whether that's like 300 people or 3 people, and knowing that they resonate with what I have to say in some way, and that can in turn help them in their own lives. I know I'm just one person. I'm just a random person from Australia who's now living a take 2. It turns out the mic wasn't on the whole time, so whatever, we're gonna make it work. What I ended on was talking about the fact of who do I believe I am in the scheme of influence, being that I'm just this random person in the world sitting on my yaya's chair in a living room in Greece telling you about some things that I've learned. The thing is, if you zoom out and if you look at other influencers like Anna Paul, for example, or just random people that you put on such a giant pedestal, maybe, what makes them special? What makes them different? What makes them inherently more deserving of that platform than you? I'm not saying that to discredit them. I'm saying this to put it into perspective that, and myself included, you can look outwardly all the time and look up to other people believing that they have this thing inside of them that makes them deserving of being in that position. And you, in the process of doing that, you separate yourself, you other yourself from knowing that you could be in that position as well. It's just the thing that I think stops a lot of us is self-confidence and belief. Belief that we can do the things that we dream about, that we could be in a position of influence if that's something that we want. And bringing it back to myself and how I've gotten to a point where I feel like I can express myself, the only thing that has literally changed is my level of self-belief. I'm still talking to an audience of less than, I think, like 60 people on YouTube, a very small audience, and 1,000 people on TikTok. That hasn't changed by any means. My message is still the same. It's just at this point in time, I feel confident knowing that what I'm saying, the place that I'm coming from, and what it is that I have to offer is true. It's true to me. And even if this amount of following doesn't, get any bigger, it just stays at this number, I'm so happy with that. This is a very big part of purpose for me. This gives my life meaning, and it makes me feel like everything that I've experienced up until this point that I often talk about on this channel and this platform, it gives that meaning too. So that's what I mean when I say I want people to reconsider their level of influence and why it is that they want to be influencers. Anyone can really grow a following if they posted content that was quality enough and if they posted consistently. Like, we see it so often reflected back to us on social media. Like, I was just working at I was a cashier, and now a year later I'm a full-time content creator. It's this dream of sorts that is constantly, I think, put forward as, something that we should aspire to and something that we should want. And I know why, and I know why you probably believe it to be a dream life, is because who wouldn't want to not have to go into an office every day and set your own hours and to receive, free things? That all seems very aesthetic and like the kind of life you would like to lead. But without a fundamental why or purpose behind it, all of that is pointless. I don't know if it's talked about enough, and maybe people have spoken about this, but I imagine there could be so many influencers out there who got everything that they wanted and realized that it actually wasn't for them. And again, I don't want to say this to discourage you, to stop you from going after the things that you want to do and the things that you want to have in your life. I feel though that if we could delve a little bit deeper within us, if we could re-examine our motives in why we want to have the things that we want to have, it will just serve us so much better in the long run. What I'm seeing more and more of is this questioning, I think, of, social media and the way we interact with the online worlds in general. I'm seeing that being questioned, and I think it's for such good reason. But in order to sort of further dismantle that, we kind of have to look at our own role and our own influence in this. A lot of us, I think, are just missing that sense of purpose, that sense of what is it that I have to bring to the world and what it is that I have to offer. And I really think that if you get to the crux of that, if you figure out what it is that you want to say and you really stand by it and believe it, then you can be an influencer. You might not get paid for it, you might not monetize whatever you're doing, but that makes you influential. to me. So this is a bit of a rant. I don't really know what it is that I'm trying to say. I just want to relay a different version of what I think to be influential out there.